Today on NBA 2K25, we'll be doing our annual fantasy draft on my NBA franchise. I always like to do a fantasy draft whenever we have a new sports game out, and here with NBA 2K, no different. I know a lot of you are probably wondering where the second episode of the Warriors series is, and I've been working on some stuff behind the scenes. I'm setting up a roster to try to make player progression as unique, authentic, and realistic as possible. I'm very close to finishing it. As you can see, I've been doing a lot of test simulations. I'm hoping to have it done within the next day or so I can upload the roster and my settings, and more importantly, start this series. But until then, we're going to do some other stuff, including today's fantasy draft rebuild. As for the team we're selecting, I wanted to choose a team with new branding because it's always fun to do teams with new uniforms. And the Los Angeles Clippers have gone over a major overhaul, so we're going to pick them. And hopefully we end up with a fairly high pick. It is a serpentine fantasy draft, though, as we get the 9th pick in the first round. Okay, not too bad. The usual suspects at the top. Wemby returns to the Spurs. A lot of the older guys are still on the board. But we're going to have a big selection of stars. And as I'm scrolling here, this choice feels really easy. I want somebody who I know is going to get better over the next few years, but is still elite already. Anthony Edwards feels like the grand slam, home run, no-brainer. And so he'll be our selection at number 9 in the first round. Let's get through the rest of round 1. No major surprises, I would say, for the most part. LeBron goes all the way at 15. On one hand, it feels weird because he's LeBron James, but on the other hand, he is going to be 40 this year. He'll pair up with Cade Cunningham in Washington. That'll bring us to the second round. It's definitely not as good of a draft board. Miles Turner's a name that I really thought about. I also looked at some young guys, Brandon Miller being an option, and I think that's going to be the route we go with. I want to have a youth movement, and Brandon Miller is going to continue to get better and better. As that'll bring us into the third round. I figured Miles Turner wasn't going to fall. He didn't. But Darius Garland is eyeing me up like a hawk here. Garland does progress pretty well in this game. I've liked what I've seen from the simulations I've done. He is on a pretty big contract, though, but that could be a tradable salary for a bigger piece down the line. That'll bring us into the fourth round now, and I think at this point, we've got to go all about the youth movement. Young players, young players, young players. I'm surprised Kobe White is still here, but we don't need guards. We have a 1, a 2, and a 3. We need some bigs. So I think Walker Kessler is going to be the route we go with, somebody who can rebound, somebody who can play defense. His stock has gone down a little bit in real life since his rookie season, but here in 2K, he's still quite good. We're not done with the Jazz, though. Taylor Hendricks is going to start at the 4, and now that it's time to set up a bench, it's all about the young guys. I was hoping Rob Dillingham would fall. He does. He's going to be our microwave scorer. Ron Holland here in the 7th. Stephon Castle is still on the board in the 8th. I have no clue how that happened. Looking for more size, I thought about Khalil Ware, but ultimately we're going to go with Yves Missi. Isaiah Collier will be our pick in round 10, followed by Jared McCain in round 11, my Kangaroo King, Johnny Furphy in round 12, Pacom Dadier in round 13, and I already know who I want with my last pick, Bronny James, and there's a real reason for this. He actually progresses quite well in this game. 2K juiced his potential a little bit. So he's going to be our pick here in round 14. And speaking of LeBron James, he's going on a farewell tour. I don't know why the Wizards picked him in the first round in hindsight. But I like our team. We've got a nice big 3 with Darius Garland, who's the oldest player on the roster at 24, along with Anthony Edwards and Brandon Miller. Outside of those 3 and Walker Kessler, everybody else on this team is 20 years old or younger. Outside of our starting 5, everybody is rookies. I thought I changed the setting to where everybody gets their picks back. Apparently not. I'm going to make sure we get our picks back at least, so that won't be an issue. And now it's time to look at the rotation here for season number 1. The first 5 picks, our 5 non-rookies, will be the starters. Garland, Edwards, Miller, Hendricks, and Kessler. And then the bench is going to be all rookies. I'm not expecting this team to be overly great year 1, but I think year 2, year 3, as we progress, things could be quite fun. Wemby wins MVP in just his 2nd season. Dear Lord, I am scared. Zachary Rizache wins the Rookie of the Year. Russell Westbrook, 6th man. Wemby, Depoy. Amen Thompson, Most Improved. And De'Aaron Fox wins the Clutch Player of the Year as we take a look at our All-NBA teams. Anthony Edwards ends up making the All-NBA 3rd team, as Rob Dillingham and Stephon Castle make the 1st team. And we have 4 guys on the All-Rookie 2nd team: Furphy, Missi, Holland, and Collier. So we end up as the 7th seed, going 43 and 39. Honestly, a little bit better than I was expecting, but I guess that's part of having Anthony Edwards on the team. Amongst the teams at the top, I think it's an interesting mix of teams who picked highly and then teams who picked at the later end of the first round. The Nets, for instance, had the best record in the league, and they had the last pick in the fantasy draft. Edwards with nearly 30 points per game. Brandon Miller and Darius Garland did their things. Rob Dillingham, the only other double-digit scorer. The one issue, though, let's look at Stephon Castle. 30% from the field. True shooting of 42% and an estimated wins added of nearly -3. That's not good. Johnny Furphy also below 40% along with Isaiah Collier. That's part of having rookies. We're going to go through the ups and downs as we've got the Blazers here in the play-in. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander leads the way. Honestly, not a bad team. Hopefully we can get the win, get the 7th seed. Pretty close game here. I thought about hopping in, but we're starting to pull away late. We win 131-113 with 39 from Brandon Miller. And then Rob Dillingham was second in scoring with 23. So that'll bring us to the first round against the 2-seeded Spurs with the MVP Victor Wembanyama. And the weird thing about the rest of this team is I honestly don't think they're that good. It's a really old roster. Wemby carried them to the 2 seed. That's how good this guy is. I feel like our roster really isn't that much worse than theirs, but with how good Wemby was, yeah, I didn't expect much else. We lose in 5. It'll be the Kings and the Nets going to the NBA Finals. The Nets at the very last pick, they got Jimmy Butler in the first round, and then at the turn, they picked Jalen Williams. The Kings also picked very late. I think they were second to last. They picked Paul George and then Jaren Jackson at the start of the second round. So the two teams at the end of the fantasy draft make the finals, and it goes to the Kings with Jaren Jackson winning the finals MVP. Paul George now has a championship. Russell Westbrook now has a championship. As that'll bring us to the NBA draft. I got our pick back. It's 17th in the first round. I am using the real-life draft classes here for this first season. Probably the only time we're going to use the real-life classes all year. So of the players on the board here, a few interesting options. We fully scouted Russ Wallace, who's like the one guy here who isn't real. I think I'm going to pick Ian Jackson, though, from UNC. Really good scoring ratings, good athleticism, solid defense. Ace Bailey goes number 1 over Cooper Flagg. That's a surprise. The Mavericks luck out. As for Ian Jackson, he's a 74, one of the higher-rated players left on the board. As for team and player options, I don't know why we would decline either Miller or Hendricks. That would be pretty foolish. Going into free agency, we already have 2 big contracts with Edwards and Garland. So theoretically, the only way we could be big-time players in free agency is trading Darius Garland for some small deals. But I don't know how many teams can take on a large contract such as Garland. So I decided to wait until unrestricted free agency for some of these restricted guys like Jalen Green to see maybe we could trade Garland for some assets and sign a guy like Jalen Green. But after going through the trade finder, I have a different idea. Darius Garland is good, but Damian Lillard is better. He was actually traded this year from Orlando to Detroit. He's a little bit older. He's going to regress, but he's an upgrade over Garland. We're also giving away Pacom Dadier and Johnny Furphy, 2 guys who were at the back end of the rotation last year. We have so many young assets, I don't feel a problem giving those guys away. Obviously, we don't really have much money to play with now. We can only sign small deals, so I'm going to offer Andre Drummond and Delano Banton. Unfortunately, we don't have enough for Banton, so instead we're going to have to sign somebody for a minimum. And after doing some searching, the name I landed on is Gershon Yabusele, the talented Frenchman. We're going to give him a minimum deal, and he accepts. So him and Drummond will help the front court. Damian Lillard's an upgrade to the back court. He does regress quite a bit, as I expected, only an 86. But Anthony Edwards is a 95. Miller goes up 4. Kessler up 3. Castle up 6. Maybe he'll shoot higher than 30%. Dillingham +5, Holland +4, somebody else was +4. That might have been Collier. Not 100% sure. We have so many young guys on this team, it's hard to keep track. And that'll bring us into Season 2. I'm hoping with the addition of Damian Lillard and the improvements to quite literally the entire roster, that we're going to see improvements overall. Sure enough, as you can see by the bottom left, I was right. We are 71-10. We've lost 1 game since February 2nd. And obviously, we're the number 1 seed, 18 wins in a row, easily the best point differential in the league, as Luka wins the MVP, Cooper Flagg, rookie and 6th man of the year, Wemby wins D-Point, Anthony Black, most improved. Our team is good, but I don't know if I would say we're 72 wins good. I'm quite surprised by our team's success. I was expecting maybe 50 wins, maybe the 3rd seed in the conference. Not this. I don't know what happened. As we take a look at the numbers, Anthony Edwards, of course, had a great season, 27.5. Lillard and Miller were hooping. Dillingham in the double figures. Castle shot nearly 40%. progress, I guess. We're going to play Minnesota here in the first round. We stole Edwards and Dillingham from them, of course, with a backcourt of Trae Young and Derek White. Honestly, a pretty deep team. I feel like that's a solid roster, but we're going to bring out the brooms, sweeping them. And now we get to play San Antonio, hoping for revenge. Wemby's a 96, but the rest of the roster has regressed and gotten worse. Pretty competitive series, 3-2. We win in 6, but Anthony Edwards broke his kneecap in that last game and is out for the year. We're going to have to win without our best player now. We'll see if we can do it against the Warriors. Donovan Mitchell leads the way. Really good top 6 with Jalen Suggs, Asar Thompson, Jabari Smith, Tinkus Pinkus, and Emmanuel Quickley. Not overly deep other than that, but they've got maybe a better 6-man than anybody in the league. And we're struggling. We lose in 5. So Anthony Edwards, clearly the backbone of this team, as you can see. Warriors, Raptors in the finals. Warriors win it all. I think if Anthony Edwards stays healthy, that championship is ours. I mean, we won 71 games this year. Back to the drawing board, though. That'll bring us into another offseason. So I didn't yet switch the picks here for 2026. And as you can see, we get the number 1 pick via Houston. I'm not going to keep it because that would be cheating. We have 29 in the first round instead. I'd rather trade it away, maybe look for a veteran, and we're going to make a splash. Our 2 picks and Damian Lillard to the Jazz for Karl Anthony Towns. I feel like Lillard was pretty solid, but he's going to regress again. Towns gives us another piece in the front court, and more importantly, he's not going to get much worse, if at all. So we're thinking ahead here by making this move for Cat. We're building the Minnesota Timberwolves here with Edwards, Cat, and Dillingham. The Timberwolves always do really well in simulation in this game, so I don't think it's a bad strategy. Here in free agency, Luka Doncic and Kevin Durant headline the list. We're not going to have enough money for these guys, but we actually do have some flexibility to go out and maybe sign a good role player or two. I don't know why Taylor Hendricks is here. He should not be a free agent because he's only been in the league for 3 years and he signed a standard 4-year contract. So I'm going to make sure he's back. He shouldn't be making $34 million. Walker Kessler is an actual free agent, though, since he's been in the league for 4 years. I do want to re-sign him. We do have bird rights on him, though, so we can afford somebody like Isaiah Joe, adding some more spacing to the team. I'm going to give Kessler a 2-year deal for around $25 a year. I ended up switching it to a 3-year deal. They both say yes. Now I'm going to re-sign Taylor Hendricks. I'm going to edit his contract to make it 1 year for, I think, $9 million because that's about how much he would be making this year. And with that, I feel pretty good about our offseason. I think we might cruise to the championship this year. But Luka Doncic has other plans. He is signing with the Spurs, which means he is now teammates with Victor Wembanyama. God help us all. The 2 best players probably in the entire league are now on the same team. The rest of the roster isn't that good, but it doesn't matter. The Spurs are now the new favorites to win the title, even over us. And I think that duo is better than the trio of Cat, Miller, and Edwards. I felt like I needed to make a panic move after that, so I tried getting LaMelo Ball from the Hornets, couldn't make it happen, but to my surprise, we strike up a deal with the Wizards for Cade Cunningham. We gave up a lot. Karl Anthony Towns, it's been fun. Stephon Castle, Taylor Hendricks, and 3 first-rounders for Cade and Capella. Since we have Walker Kessler, we don't really need Capella, so I'm going to trade him for Jalen Johnson and Tyus Jones. Johnson replaces Taylor Hendricks and honestly is an upgrade, and then we're swapping Tyus Jones and Isaiah Collier. Tyus Jones is better right now, so we're improving at point guard. So even though I would still say the Spurs duo is better than our new trio of Cade, Miller, and Edwards, I think the rest of our roster is better. We've got a good 5 with Kessler, a good 4 with Jalen Johnson, and look at the bench. Ron Holland's an 80, Ian Jackson's an 80, McCain's a 79. The one guy whose progression I haven't been overly happy with is Yves Missi. We're going to need an upgrade as the backup 5, and I really like Isaiah Jackson in this game, so we're going to get him from Sacramento for Isaiah Joe and a second-rounder. So our 2 big offseason moves, Cat and Joe, were both traded away in separate panic moves, and now our team looks quite a bit different. Cade Cunningham is a 91 overall. That's why I made the deal for him. I knew he was going to progress. I wanted to make a deal for him before player progression. He's a noticeable upgrade to Cat and Damian Lillard, and I feel like this team should be quite good. Why is Isaiah Livers here? Okay, season's over, guys. Isaiah Livers might be the worst NBA player I've ever seen, and that says a lot, considering the Pistons have had a lot of bad players who I've had the unfortunate displeasure of watching. Luka wins the MVP with his new team. Wemby wins the Defensive Player of the Year with the Spurs. Look at Liam McNeely, 21, 7, and 7. Damn. But Luka and Wemby make the All-NBA first team. They end up finishing as the 2 seed, a little bit behind your Los Angeles Clippers. We still get the number 1 seed. Our record was a little worse than last year at 66-16, but we're playing really well as of recent. We started the year off slow. I think we were like 22-11 at one point. I was a little concerned, but I decided not to make any roster moves. And thank goodness I stood pat, because we went like 44-5 the rest of the year. The Spurs still finishes the 2 seed. I'm fully prepared for a Western Conference Finals matchup with them. We played them in the first round of year 1. We played them in the second round of year 2. It feels inevitable. Cade led the team in scoring narrowly over Edwards. Ian Jackson finished in 4th. His progression's been really fun to watch here. I don't know why Isaiah Livers started those 3 games, though. We're going to get a rematch with the Warriors here in the first round. Of course, they beat us in the Western Conference Finals. Same team, but without Jalen Suggs. They replace him with Kevin Porter Jr. And with Anthony Edwards healthy, we should have no problems here. Bring out the brooms. We are sweeping them. But I have even better news. Look at the Spurs. They're down 3-1. We might not have to see them after all. Come on, Phoenix. Finish off the job. San Antonio takes Game 5. Pivotal Game 6. If they win this, they're going to have all the momentum going into Game 7. And the Suns get the job done. San Antonio loses in the first round. Thank you, Nikola Jokic. We'll be playing the Blazers in the second round. We saw them in year 1 in the play-in tournament. They've added Donovan Clingan. Clingan and Jared Allen as the rim protection is frightening, with SGA obviously anchoring the backcourt. Shouldn't be a problem for our super team. Portland takes a game on us, but nothing more. And we will play against the Suns, who beat San Antonio in the first round with Jokic, Benedict Mathurin, Kobe White. Kind of a fun team, I'm not going to lie. I don't really see how they got here, but fun squad. Hopefully we can get the job done as we end up winning game number 1. Game 2 goes to us. Game 3 goes to us, and we sweep them. We've got the number 1 seed of Miami Heat in the finals. Cade and Mobley win their conference MVPs. Fitting that they've been compared to each other their whole careers. The Heat have not had a smooth playoff run like us. They've lost 7 games, whereas we've lost 1. This is an interesting team. I'm not sure why they're this good. And this explains it right here. Tyrese Halliburton is injured. He's obviously their best player, their first-round draft pick, broken wrist, out for a week or 2, so he'll probably come back at some point. And with a healthy Halliburton, that team is kind of loaded with Evan Mobley, Zachary Rizache, DeAndre Ayton, Brandon Pajemski. Really, really well-rounded team as we win Game 1 and Game 2 and Game 3. Going for the sweep. Halliburton is healthy, but that hopefully will be no issue for us. We're up by 6 late. Let's hop in. Let's finish off the job. Here is Cade Cunningham with the screen from Jackson. Cade on the drive as it's stripped away and gets it back. Over to Miller for 3. Bang! Brandon Miller sinks the triple, and our Clippers are up by 9. Edwards with 33 gets it over to Ian Jackson, getting some closing minutes on the drive. Layup is good, despite solid defense by Tobias Harris, who's also on this Miami Heat team. 11-point game. Halliburton guarded by Cade on the drive. That one is good. Off-balance floater by Halliburton makes it a 9-point game as the Heat try to keep themselves in it. Halliburton jumper off the pass from Wiseman is no good. Jackson with the rebound out to Anthony Edwards. Edwards, step back, trade ball, bang! 36, 6 and 6 for Anthony Edwards. 12-point game. That feels like it could be the dagger. Halliburton looks for a quick 3 back, and he gets it. Big shot for Halliburton. Lead back within 9 following Miami possession. They've got to move faster. Hallie, 3. No good. Ball is tipped. Harris gets it back. No good. Jackson with the rebound. And it does not look like the Heat are going to foul. Let's dribble out this clock. I feel like we got to give it to Anthony Edwards, the top pick of the fantasy draft. Even though Cade led the team in scoring this year and won the Western Conference Finals MVP and honestly was the best player this year, I feel like it's only right that Ant finishes the job. And there you go. The Clippers win the finals here in year 3 of the video. I think the Spurs signing Luka might have been the best thing that could have happened to us, because if they never signed Luka, I wouldn't have made the trade for Cade Cunningham. We probably would not have made the move for Jalen Johnson or Isaiah Jackson. Again, even though the Timberwolves are really good in this game and we would have had their 3 highest rated players at this point with Edwards, Cat, and Rob Dillingham, this team is even better with a guy like Cade Cunningham who's going to be a consistent all-NBA performer for a while. A backcourt of him and Anthony Edwards just sounds absolutely filthy. Both us and the Heat have a whole lot of really high draft picks, with Miami Zachary Rizashe was number 1. DeAndre Ayton was number 1. Evan Mobley was number 2. James Wiseman was number 2. And then with us, we've got a couple number 1 picks of our own with Cade and Anthony Edwards. Brandon Miller was taken 2nd. And even these young guys, Ron Holland was 5. Rob Dillingham was 8. Before we traded Stephon Castle, he was 4. Cat was 1. Garland was picked in the top 5. Apparently, you have to be a high pick in this fantasy draft video to have any success. Edwards, again, led the team with 36. Finals MVP will not go to him, though. It's going to end up going to Cade Cunningham. Obviously, as maybe the biggest Cade Cunningham fan on the planet, I can't really complain with this. But I do feel like this was Anthony Edwards' team. He was the highest pick. He's been here the entire time. Even if Cade statistically was a little bit better this year, Anthony Edwards deserves a ton of credit. Brandon Miller, by the way, 92 overall. He's progressed really well. Hope everybody enjoyed the video. Again, more NBA 2K content coming. Hopefully the next Warriors video is uploaded within the next day or so. If that's the case, then my MyNBA settings and sliders and rosters should be all good to go. I'm excited for you guys to see them, and I'm excited to introduce the most realistic and immersive progression system MyNBA probably has ever seen. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.